we are having this speaker. He's from Razorpay, CTO of Razorpay. So to begin with the discussion, sir, I would like to ask you. My first question would be that we have seen the evolution of fintech, right? But how is the evolution of payments? How is that happening? Because India has seen this phase that we have moved from cash to cards, and then now to directly code, the QR codes, right? And there is also a conception that India has somewhat missed the card phase, because still a lot of the developed countries like US, in the West, they are still using cards more. So what do you have to say on this?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for inviting. I know you guys are running a little bit behind in schedule, so we can make it interactive. We can take more questions also after a couple of questions from you. So very good question. I don't think cards is gonna go away completely. In the last several months, many banks, including HDFC and other banks, have issued quite a bit of credit cards. So I think credit card boom is happening, and it will continue to do so, especially when affordability becomes a necessity. Like UPI is good, it has revolutionized quite a bit in terms of digitization and whatnot. But credit is also an important thing that is currently not that prevalent in India, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So I think card is gonna come. And also recently NPCI, I think, has written a concept note on credit for UPI as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how we push the boundaries. I think India is a little bit ahead in terms of...
So if I'm not wrong, if I not got it wrong, I think you are saying that the cards will stay, but we are still developing on the UPI angle.
Yeah, UPI has what, 70% of the online transactions are in UPI. So we believe that it will continue to be so. But affordability is an important thing to help the economy grow. And currently UPI doesn't have that option, right? And the credit cards typically also gave a lot of protection. It comes with various rewards and benefits for the holder. Right?
So it's basically a complete package.
Yes. So either that capability will come to UPI, which is what NPCI is also proposing, but card network has its own benefits. So I think we'll have a mix of all of the payments.
Although, sir, since Razorpay is that online payments app, and there's always a misconception or conception, because it's not still clear yet, or maybe we are not at that level of digitalization, where we say that all the transactions that we do or the data that we have, the critical data, that's completely safe. So security is always a concern. It's always a question that comes to people's mind. And in case of businesses, that's again a bigger concern when they adopt any service, any e-payment service, and even to the people at the grassroots. So what do you have to say in this? Do you think security is still that big of a concern that people should, question that? Or are we, moving ahead at a rapid pace to solve this problem?
For Razorpay, security and compliance are the top priority. So, and we are dealing with money. So I would think that a consumer needs to think about security and whether compliance is there and whatnot. So I think it's a natural thing. We are in that type of a business, and it's highly regulated for a reason, and customer data is present. So I do think security should continue to being a top priority, and we are completely cognizant of it. And so we are investing heavily on making sure that we continue to earn the trust of the consumer and also the businesses and the regulatory bodies and whatnot. So I think it's very important for fintech. So when I look at the operating priorities for the tech team, security and compliance is the top priority.
I think he's very right when he said that. And also, so I just wanted to ask one last question before we, move the house, open the house for the Q&A from the audience side. Are you also utilizing AI-based tools? Since in the morning we had a lot of discussions around generative AI-based tools, and it's the hype, these days in the technology industry. So are you also leveraging these tools at Razorpay?
So I think it's it's a hype, but the part is the tools have become accessible, and it has connected a chord with the general public, which I think is a good thing. But in terms of AI, the predictive AI we have been using for several years now. So for example, there are several banking gateways that we connect to for completing a transaction. So we look at improving the success rate on how well a transaction can complete, and that is done through AI. So we look at the success rates and also the cost-based routing. All the gateways are not of the same cost. So we do that, and we pass the benefits to the merchants. We have return to origin is a problem for e-commerce vendors, wherein the package cash on delivery option or payment on delivery option is given, but the consumer decides not to take the package. So the merchant assumes the cost of taking the package back to the office, right? So the return to origin problem. So we have good AI models for that type of problem. So we look at AI as a thing that can be used across board, whether it is a mundane back office type of thing, or conversational document search, conversational onboarding. Like if you look at our onboarding journey today, the forms go in a way in which a designer is thinking about and not how the consumer or a merchant is thinking about. Like we might ask a question on your category on the 7th page, wherein we can ask in a very conversational way. So I think all of these techniques are going to be used. We take it very seriously. We have a separate AI democratization initiative in the company, so where we are educating the entire organization.
So sir, as you just said that AI models can be used on almost every process that's there in a business. So can you share some success stories from Razorpay, that how it has actually helped you transform your business to take it to a next level altogether?
So the first one I talked about, the success rate, has been one of the reasons why we are resonating well with our customer base is the success rate. And we attribute heavily on AI. Previously it used to be rule-based engine. We also look at risk analytics, so that we can at real-time identify fraudulent transactions and whatnot. There is also AI. And in terms of the return to origin, there is a product called as Magic Checkout. And that has been quite a bit of a success. So yeah, those are the examples.
So sir, till now our conversation has been quite insightful. And looking at the timer, I have only 7 minutes left. And as you requested, I will now open the floor for audience questions. So I'll request all the audience to speak up, shoot your questions. Murali sir is all set. He's in full form to answer all your questions. So anybody out there, any questions can we have from the audience?
Sir, very insightful conversation. My name is Kanchan Dvivedi, and I'm the founder of Inspire, which is a community of women. We are looking at empowering pan-India and also maybe beyond India through providing them with jobs, internships. So my question was, sir, around the emerging tech of generative AI. My question is there going to be a chat GPT from India pretty soon? And if so, what are the challenges for the same startup going to be?
I think this was asked to Sam also when he was visiting India. So he answered it well. It's just too costly to build something that is very general purpose. I think in terms of fintech, there is going to be a bunch of customized domain-specific LLMs, and we are also interested in building something like that, because the type of content that we have to understand is not generally available in public domain. So what works generally may not work with specificity. So I do believe that per domain there is interest in building LLMs, and I think many startups can do it to solve their needs. So general LLM, I don't know whether we have to solve it, because it's very costly.
So maybe some investment into the space would help.
Yeah, of course. I think the regional language support, those type of areas, India is very good in terms of utilizing English, But I think there is a lot of appetite in supporting a lot of regional languages and whatnot. But definitely, there is need for that type of technology.
Right. Thank you so much.
Also, I would like to add to just what you said is that the UPI or the QR based transactions that we have been started using, this actually includes even the people at the grassroots level. So even people who are not very well educated, who are not very learned, and may not be very well versed with English language, right? So I think if somehow we can get on this innovation and induce that in such payments app, e-payments apps, so it will become much more easier for those vendors, small scale vendors and small scale shopkeepers to keep an account of their transactions in a more better way. So moving on, do we have any more questions in the house? We still have 3 minutes left.
Yeah, hi. Prabjot from Courage. So my question is, with UPI and card based technologies available, and you already talked about that we'll have a mix of both. But do you think, what I want to understand is, what do you think about the regulations and some of the government alignments, how they would shape up this market in future? Do you see any impact around it, or how this will be adopted?
Anything specific you want to know?
Yes, specifically because UPI has been heavily pushed by Government of India, right? So even to other countries and payment across the borders, right? And accordingly, will there be a pushback on not heavily relying on cards and some of the other things?
I think the regulators have been very clear. For example, RuPay is supported in UPI now. But it has not been opened up for Visa and MasterCard, right? So there is some leg up that is given to the technology that comes within India. But regulation is constantly changing, so I cannot predict what exactly they will do. But clearly, UPI is has a mass appeal, and the India stack in general is a big appeal, and we know that with the G20 that happened, there's a lot of interest in other countries also in adopting. So I think the open stack, whether it is identity or healthcare or fintech, finance related things, it's all in generally accelerating innovation. So
just a follow-up to that, so does that enable some of the Indian startups to explore market outside as well, latching onto the UPI?
I think so. In fact, the India stack expansion into Africa and even Europe has been in the news. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Any more questions do we have? Yeah, we have one more question.
Hi, good evening. My name is Abby. I just wanted to ask, what about these unprocessed payments? Many a times when we use Razorpay, sometimes the payments don't get processed and there's no TAT for it that, it gets refunded back. The amount is debited from the account, but the credit comes at its own fancy. If we were to, check with the customer care or somewhere else, they say it's all reliant, it's all as per norms and regulations of the third party. For example, Razorpay. How would you answer that?
see, I think the very valid question. It depends on the payment methods and the issuing banks, and see, the payment gateways are facilitating payments to go through. But we rely on downstream systems to actually do the part of the actual money movement. So it might depend on case by case basis. And if if you have any issues, please raise it to me. I'll try to resolve it.
That's a very generic answer, but there is no permanent solution to it. That's what I wanted to check with you. Are you working on it, or
we are working on it? But I'm just telling you, in general, there are hundreds of banks, hundreds of gateways, several networks. So in general, payment processing is not easy. And we have simplified quite a bit of it, and it's a journey, right? So wherever there are gaps, we have to address it. That's what technology is meant to solve.
I hope, sir, that answers your question. Great. So I think as Mr. Murali suggested, and in fact we also loved it, that this was more of an interaction session. It was a two-way session. It was not just the monologue that we are doing on stage and boring you guys. So again, I'd like to thank you all for actively participating, shooting out questions, and engaging with the conversation. Thank you, Murali sir. Thank you. You've been really wonderful, and I think the session was really insightful. And time is up, and I think we have to wrap it up now. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
all.